Zogt the Heilige Gemara. We're starting the parak tonight. Beis Amar Aleph, the parak of Meshuach Muhammad. Zogt the Heilige Meshuach Muhammad. B'shas Hamedaber, b'shas Hamedaber Al-Am, b'lashon HaKadosh HaYimedaber. When the Meshuach Muhammad, which is the Kain that was appointed to lead the Klal Yisrael into war and rile them up, like we saw the videos in the IDF when they were first going in. Like there was one guy like yelling Ivrit, and they were yelling back and forth like that whole bull. Like you feel the rush. At least I did. I felt like in my heart, I felt like pumped. So they had him in Shulch Muhammad also speak some words to them, very strong words. We're going to see what the Mishnah says in a minute. Shalom v'haya, it has to be in Lashon Kodesh because Shalom v'haya kikarvechem al Muhammad v'nigash hakayim. When you go out to war, the kain will approach you. We're going to see how we know from there that it's Meshuach Muhammad, not just some random kain or just some guy off the street. The lashon hakodesh. How do we know? V'amar aleim Shema Yisrael. We're going to see in a second how we know. He has to speak in lashon hakodesh. V'amar aleim Shema Yisrael. He says Shema Yisrael, and then he says Aleichem. So the pasuk is Azay. V'amar aleim Shema Yisrael. Atem kravim hayoyim l'machama. You're coming to listen, Chavra. We're going to Muhammad. Aleichem, on your enemies. So we're darshaning Aleichem v'lo yalechechem, not on your brothers. Lo Yehuda al Shimon v'lo Shimon al Binyamin, not on these. We're not having a civil war, Baruch Hashem. And the point of that is she'im tiflu biyadim yirachmu aleim. If there was internal fighting and one fell to the other, they would have achmanas on you. How do we see that they would have achmanas on you? Because we had a civil war once. They were the aforementioned men or the named men. They were taken to captive. They were taken into captivity. Again, this is talking about a civil war. And all the naked, all the undressed, all the naked captives that were dressed from the spoils of war. And they clothed them, and they gave them shoes, and they gave them to eat, and they gave them clothing. They took care of them. And anybody who was unable to walk, they gave a donkey to ride, and they treated them well for POWs. They brought them to Yerushalayim, and they went back to Sharman. You're not fighting against your brothers that are going to treat you like we just said with Rachmanis once you're not a threat. They're not going to have any Rachmanis in you. And then he says, the Vaiter in the pasuk, Al yerach levavchem, don't let your heart get weakened. Al tiru, don't get scared. Yerach, I don't know if it's a lashon of weakened. Yerach is also fear. There's all lashons of fear, all the shyness of fear. Al yerach levavchem, al tiru, don't be afraid. What's it referring to? I'm sorry, al tachvazu. Al yerach levavchem, v'nei tzahala susim, v'tzucha haravais. Don't get scared from the bray, the neighing of the horses, and the hordes, the mass amounts of people. Don't be afraid of the clashing of the shields with shifas hakalgasim and shifa. I looked at this 3 times and I can't remember what it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm gonna go back on page. This is the hordes. What was the lesson before? Oh, the glittering of the sword. Charovis is the sword. Okay. It says tights glittering. I don't know why glittering swords are scary, but don't be afraid of the streams of the horses, the neighing of the horses, the tzechzuchas charovis, and the glittering or the swords, or maybe just the sound of the sword coming out. The clashing of the shields, the shifas. Hakalgasim. I think either they used to stamp their feet, and the clouds of sand and dirt would come up, and it would be a very imposing image. And times when we call Quranis, don't be afraid of the shofar sounds. And times when they call tzavaches, the enemy would scream and try to instill fear in in the other side. Hashem is traveling with you, and not I don't say physically, but not only like, oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'll see you. I'm there. But I'm there in spirit. Hein ban. We see that Hashem, the Aron Hashem also came out. Hein ban b'nitzchay shel bas v'dam. Atem ban b'nitzchay shel makam. Hein again. Hein ban b'nitzchay shel bas v'dam. They're coming with the power, with the strength of bas v'dam. Atem ban b'nitzchay shel makam. You're coming with the Kodesh Baruch Hu's power, which is in sight. Plishtim, and he's giving examples of when this happened, how this played out in the past. Plishtim, it's the Plishtim came with the power, the strength of Gali. It's Mahasefer. What was his end? He fell by sword, which is maybe I guess a metaphor because we know that he threw stones at him, but and they all fell with him. Then Ammon Bo ben Shayvach in the times of David, later also in the times of David, the Ammon was fighting with his son. They hired this guy from I forgot where, but then this guy was Shaybach was also this warrior. Also, they fell and he fell and they fell with him. But he was not like that. This is the Aron that Mamash traveled with them into war. So see, Kodesh Baruch Hu Mamash traveled out with you, and we're not putting our faith in Basav Adam, we're traveling Mamash with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and we're going to always be Menatzeach. Now, I just had an aura, by Eish's fast tire, when it says that when you go to war against your enemies, they dash in it against the Yitzhahara. I would say that maybe the same thing over here applies to Yitzhahara. Sometimes a person, he's in Mechamas Yitzhar, and he gets nervous, he gets scared from all the tactics of the Yitzhahara and all how insurmountable it seems. But we know that Akash Baruch is with us Mamish in all our fights, and in all our challenges, and we should always be nisgaber, and we should always and never, even if there is a pagam somewhere, but we can always be menatzeach. Zok the Gemara, Micah Amar. What Micah Amar? Hachig Amar. What Rashi says, Micah Amar. What does that mean? You're saying that it says diber ala'am means lashon kodesh. How do you see that? He says, it says that we had this already, and we learned different justice from the word kol, that it's lashon kodesh. Here we're saying diber is lashon kodesh. Ma'alam lashon kodesh, avkam lashon kodesh, lashon hakodesh. It says, or it says that the kohen had to come and talk to the ilam. Yachol kol kohen sheyitza. Maybe it's any kohen that wants. Whoever who's available, choosing that we're going to war, anybody available to speak to the island before they go. The shaitim also talk to them. At the end, Ma shaitrim b'memuna. The shaitim are the enforcers. I always say when Mashiach comes, this is the job I want. The shaitim are the enforcers for Bezdin. I think I have different shifas now, but stam. When someone doesn't come to Bezdin, not like today, they send out his money, they put his picture all over Instagram. They actually went down to the guy's house and they broke his knees. There's no jokes. So the shaitim, they were appointed. It wasn't there wasn't a hefkavelt. So Av Kain b'mehuna. So too has to be an appointed Kain. It can't just be any Kain who wants to come. The Ema Kain Gadol. Maybe it's the Kohen Gadol. In other words, who's more appointed than the Kohen Gadol? In other words, if you're saying it has to be a Kohen Miyuchad, maybe it's a Kohen Gadol that's already Miyuchad. And they want Dumi de Shaiter. It has to be Dumi de Shaiter. Just like Ma Shaiter, Yisheyesh Mamuna Al Gabav, just like by a Shaiter. There's somebody else on top of him. In other words, he's not the man in charge. The Bezin tells him what to do. Av Kohen, Yesh Mamuna Al Gabav. So too, the Kohen can't be the Kohen, the chief, the Kohen Gadol, because it has to be someone who's on top of him. The Kohen Gadol also has someone on top of him. Who? But it's the king, right? It doesn't say that in here. Kohen Gadol nami the Melech is on top of him. So the Mesivta brings down random Gemaras that show that he's on top of him. But over here we had just the Mishnah beforehand that by the Hakel, the Kohen Gadol gives the Sefer Torah to the Melech. I don't know why they don't bring a ride from there. It's not interesting, but you see that the Melech is on top of the Kohen. So the Kohen Gadol. So why is it not a problem to have the Kohen who's Mamuna and Kohen Gadol who's Mamuna and he's not the top dog? Let him. And probably not the right lashon to talk about the Kohen Gadol like that. But he's not the most senior officer. There's someone on top of him. Let the Kohen Gadol do it. And the Gemara, no, it could also mean the Kohen Gadol. And the Gemara about Avedose come. We're talking about in his line of work, he has to be under someone else. So a shaiter is dealing with mishpatim, dealing with bezdin and yanim, and he's not the top guy in the bezdin system. But in the kahuna system, in the avodah system, the melech doesn't have a shlita over here. The Kohen Gadol is the chief in the avodah. He's allowed to walk in and do whatever avodah he wants, no matter which. He's not part of the 24 shifts. There's a better lesson for it, but the 24 shifts I will just use that mishmaris. The 24 mishmaris of kahuna that switch off every year. I switch off every couple of weeks, literally every 2 weeks. The Kohen Gadol, he walks in, he does whatever he wants at any time. The Ema Sagan, maybe the Sagan Kohen Gadol, right? We had just yesterday also learning about the Sagan Kohen Gadol. So he gives a Sefer Torah to the Kohen, so it fits all the criteria. He's appointed as the Sagan. He has someone on top of him, the Kohen Gadol. Maybe it's him. Sagan La Mamuna. He's not Mamuna. The Tanya. What's he there for? If there's a psul with the Kohen Gadol, then he steps in. Rashi explains, but calls the man that the Kohen Gadol doesn't have a psul, he has zero responsibility more than any other Kohen. So his mamuna is he's on standby. That's not a mamuna. For example, I have a vice president, as I was thinking earlier, a vice president, and one of the points of a vice president is that if Khalila something happens to the president, he could step in and he could take over certain things. But Kol Zman, the president's alive and well, he has responsibilities, he has things to take care of, he has things that fall directly under his purview. But if Sagan Kohen Gadol is mamish, no different than any other Kohen, except if the Kohen Gadol has a psul, he steps in. So it's not considered mamuna, the Gemara is saying. Fine. The Rashi explains it much better. The Gemara just kind of isn't. Rashi fears that's what the Gemara is saying. So that's how we know that it has to be a separate kohen that's mamuna for this. It cannot be the kohen gadol because you need someone on top of him. It can't be a random kohen that has to be mamuna. I'm going out of order, and it can't be the sgan because he's not considered mamuna. What's special about Shema Yisrael that he's saying? The Yisrael Hashbaruch was telling us through the Skan Kohen Gadol, through the Kohen Mashuach, I feel like Kiyamtem Ela Kriya Shema Shachas V'Avis. Even if you only have your whole Torah, your whole Yiddishkeit is boiled down to Nebuch, that you just lay in a pasuk Kriya Shema in the morning and a pasuk Kriya Shema at night. Iatem Nimsarim B'Yadam. Again, you could go back to what my pshat from before, that it says the Gemaras already that say that if you want to be Kaivish the Yetzer, first take him to like Lein Krishma, or it says Lein Krishma is part of the antidote for being Mizgab and Yetzer. So you see Mamish this Indian by Mechemes, like Mechemes Agashmi also. Al Yerach Ledach Ma'atiro, Dana Rabbanan, this again referring to all the Lashonis of don't be afraid, don't be scared, and don't all these things. Dana Rabbanan Pamayim Medaber Imam. There's 2 times that they spoke to him. Achas Besfar, once by the border when they were leaving Eretz Yisrael, but Achas B'Mechama, one Mamish on the battleground, or right before. Besfar Ma'uaymer, before by the border where they say Shimu Divrei Marchi HaMechama, they said this whole drasha of who's. I think the Gemara does not go through it over here, but the Gemara does go through it somewhere else. I think in Megillah. I don't remember offhand, but it says that all the chaver that shouldn't go, that don't have to fight. Where is that? What is it? Hold on. But it doesn't say where it's brought down. I think the Gemara is in Megillah. But it says whoever shouldn't fight, the guy who built a new house, the guy who built a new Sotah, the guy who just got engaged, who just got married, all these chaver, they can go back home. Right by the battlefield, what they say, the Al Yerech Lavach, and then they gave that whole speech of don't be afraid and don't Altir v'altarzu. Kenegan arbed vam she'umayis ha'aylam eisen. Now Gifin, I think this is referring to the horses and Marian Tzvachim v'Reimsen. Again, they would bang the things and they would yell, and the shafers, all those things that they would do. So the different lashon for each one connected for each one lashon connected each ma'aseh that they were doing. Pushed him. So So we're going to have a very interesting Gemara here about the story of Goliath and where he came from, and a little bit of his family history. What do they call it in therapy? When you do your family, when you go back a couple, like you go back to all the whatever you were brought up with, it's like there's a lesson for it. Okay, we're going to see where Goliath came from. Lashon Goliath that he stood with chutzpah. Rashi says, "Mamish that word chutzpah." Yeah, but chutzpah. He spoke to Hashem and he came and he presented himself in a very chutzpah way. Choose yourself a man and come on to me, and like try to get me. He's referring to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. We say Hashem Eshmachama. That's I don't know if he understood that, but that's what the Gemara is saying. Amar Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hareini mapilei al yad benish. I'm going to be mapil. I'm going to get him by somebody who's called Benish. Shenema v'David ben Ish Efrasi has that. V'David, and I think it's a derogatory lashon. David was not very popular in his youth, and I think it could be a derogatory lashon. He's called Ben Ish, and he's gonna get this Goliath that talks in this way of Ish. We're saying that Goliath's own words tripped him up. What does that mean? In other words, he opened up the Pesach for his Yerida. And he says, choose for me a man, and he will come onto me, and he will come down on me. Again, he's saying it in like a sarcastic way, but the Maisi he said that he will come down to me. He will be married me. He will be menatzeach in a way. Another time he said, see if he's going to be able to fight me and beat me. Again, he's saying, and he will beat me. Again, he's saying it sarcastically, but there's the Pesach. I don't know if the Gemara is saying that if they didn't say this, he wouldn't be able to win. I don't think that's what the Gemara is saying. But just, I'm not really sure what the Gemara is saying, to be honest. But this is Pashat Taich. My dog that you can come and conquer me with sticks. Again, he's saying that you're going to come conquer me. But the Gemara, you're saying that the Lashon is a Pesach. David Nami Amalei. You're coming on to me using the same lashon that he said with a sword and all your tchashkas, all your stuff, your sword and your helmets and your shield, right? The Gemara answers, Hadar Amalei, immediately he said, I'm coming right. He said right away that I'm coming with the Koyach of Hashem. If you look at the Psukim, Goliath's words were not followed right away with walking back his lashon of you're going to beat me. So over here, David right away, as soon as he says the lashon of you're going to beat me, he says, but I'm coming with Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and I'm going to beat you. And the Plishti came close to the camp, and he would make kodesh and brakim in the morning and at night. He wanted to be about this chus of shachas arvis, like we said over here. All you have to do is shachas arvis. Not all you have to do, but even if someone only does shachas arvis, he's going to be menatzeach. So Goliath wanted to destroy that chus. The question is, if we say kriyas arvis first, why didn't he come arvis? Okay, good question. He said and he stood against them for 40 days. In other words, 40 days he made him crazy. And Rashi explains that it's not Keneged, like he had a cheshbon that he wanted to go against us. It's because the Torah wasn't Miskabel right away, and we had 40 days we had to wait. So that gave him a Pesach of 40 days to be Menatzeach, that we weren't in a place that we were Miskabel Torah. I don't know if it's a Pagam, because I don't think Hashem offered it to us. In other words, the avoid there was to wait 40 days, but because there was like a hefsek of 40 days from Kabbalah Torah, that's where he got his Chayach of 40 days, and that's what Rashi explains. This is a wild Gemara. This guy came from among the Machanes Plishtim. What's his lashon b'nayim? Amarav shemavuna mikol mum. He was built perfectly, mamish no mumim. A perfect specimen of a human. Now he's giant, and we're going to see in a second that some of these pshatim build on each other. He's the middle of his brothers. Now his brothers not obviously, but his brothers were all giants. But sometimes even a giant could be too big. So if he had a brother that was abnormally large and also disproportionate, that's where the issue was. So he was a Beinani and a Beinani between his brothers. So he wasn't the largest brother, he wasn't the shortest brother, and his proportions were perfect, which is again going back on what Rav said. Or yeah. So I don't know if they're arguing necessarily. The Rebbe Shila Amar Shehu Asa Kabini, he was mamish made like a building. He was built solid. Rabbi Yechon Amar Bar Ma'ah Pape V'chad Nani. He was a son of 100 stepfathers and one father. Basically referring to the fact that we're going to talk about his mother in a very derogatory way in a few minutes. But his mother was Baal 100 men, or at least maybe 101. It could be it's a guzma, but she was Baal 101 men that night. So he was built from a iruv of zera. Now, obviously, only one tipa took hold. We're not saying he was a combination of all these 100 men, right? That's not how conception works. But there's one guy that got in there, and everyone else is just like a stepfather, Kilu. So that is the lashon over here that he was from amongst a bunch of men. The Gali is Shmoi Migas, and the pasuk continues that his name is Gali is from the city of Gas. Everyone, dashin literally means, I think, not plow, but like press on his mother. The lashon in a lashon of arayis and znus, like a press. Like everyone was pressing on her. Ksiv ma'arois b'ksiv ma'aroches. It says in Shmuel and Divrei Yamim, not Shmuel. Oh, it is Shmuel. Look at that. It says Shmuel and in Divrei Yamim, two different lashonos. Or not even, maybe I'm mixing up with another one. It says it twice. Ma'aris, it's a Krina Ksiv. I'm sorry. There's another person that says twice. I got mixed up. Ksiv Ma'aris v'Krina Ma'arachis. It says in the pasuk, it says Ma'aris, which is lashon of caves, and it says Ma'arachis, which is like from the army, like from the, I forgot the word, but from the region, from the legions of I think that's what it means. Tani Rav Yosef Shakol Heru be'imai. Everyone was also lashon hera is everyone conceived with his mother. Also lashon bia. Ksiv harafa, ksiv arpa. His mother was Arpa. Rus's the whole story with Rus and Naomi. That was Arpa. The one who walked away from Naomi was Arpa. But it calls her mother two different names. I think over here is in Shmuel and in Rus. And it says Harafa v'ksiv Arpa. Rav Shmuel Chal Amar Harafa Shema. Really, her name was Harafa. V'lama Shnikra Shemay Arfa. Shakol Arfin Isa Me'achareh. Everyone was boil her from behind, and that was a lashon of Eirif, because the Eirif I think is the back of the neck, and that's what they were looking at. I think that's the lashon over there. V'chad Amar. It's a very derogatory lashon. V'chad Amar Arfa Shema. Really, her name was Arfa. V'lama Nikra Shemay Harafa. Shakol Dashan Isa Karifais. Everyone thrust on her like smashed kernels. Again, all describing her very promiscuous lifestyle. And we know that this harifais is crushed kernels. She put a shmata on top of the bear, but tishtach ala harifais, and she put on top of it harifais crushed kernels. Another place where I know that harifais is crushed kernels. Im tichtaish es ha'evel. If you crush a fool with the, I forgot the thing, the pastel, the thing with that the pharmacies have as a symbol, no? And if you crush a fool in there with wheat kernels, he's gonna go out. But as these four giants were born to Harafa, which again referring to Arpa. Begas v'yiplu biyad David, and they fell biyad David ubiyad Avadim, and David and Avadim wiped out these sons. Mind you, who are these four? Amar Rav Chizda, Saf Umadain, Goliath v'Yishbi Benaid. These are the four sons. The Mashar asks what Rav Chizda is adding them because these are Beferish Pasuk. Even Rashi says the Beferish Pasuk. So Ayin Sham. V'yiplu biyad David ubiyad Avadim. The Chsiva Tishak. So there's a stuff over here that we know that the David fought them. So why do they have to say again that David fought them? So that's the drasha is the chsiva tishak arpa l'chamaisa, that arpa kissed her mother-in-law, and then the pasuk ends and left. Rus davkaba, and the Rus was davik in her, and also davik in the shechina. She stayed with Rus not just for the good vibes, because she wanted to be part of Chayis. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yavayu b'nei ha-neshuka v'yiplu b'yad b'nei ha-dvuka. Let the sons of the one who was kissed and let them fall by the hands of the one who was Davuk. In other words, that the children of Arpa who got kissed by Naomi, even though the pasuk says she kissed her, but also it's mashma she kissed her back, and that David was the son of, not the son mamish, but the child, the ben benai of Rus. Let David wipe these chevra out. Darash Rava, B'schar Abba Demai, Sharvida Arva El Chamaisa, the 4 cryings that she cried for her mother, Zachs of her mother-in-law, Zachs of the Yatsu Yimena Arba Gibayim. She was zeicha to have these 4 giants. Ultimately, they were killed, but she still had these 4 chevra. Shenema v'tiseena koila v'tifkena oid. And earlier it says she cried the first time, but even without that, you see the oid means again. That means it was original crying. So she cried twice, and one from each. In other words, and 2 eyes times 2 crying is 4 cryings, and that's what she did. That was how she was zeicha to these 4 giants. The Korean Ksiv also says chetz chanisai, which means the shaft of his bow, of his spear. The Korean it's eitz chanisai, and says the wood of his spear. Amar Rabbi Elazar adayin lahigiyan lechatzi shivlai shel eisei rasha. The lashon chetz, even though we don't read it, but it's just because it's written when we get to darshan it, and it's mashma that we're up to half of, not even half of the shvachos of this rasha. Over here you learn that you cannot be mishabeach b'sham, which is a very complicated thing if you follow sports. It's not a simple sugya. Again, there's real halachas involved. To be mishabeach, someone who, especially someone who lives b'fahestia shaloi, the way we're not supposed to live. It's a shikha problem. Maybe whatever. Let's not get into the details, but fine. So for the liftach beiklal, the only reason why even like we started talking about Golis Bechlal, the whole reason is to be Mishabech David. No, as we're saying, he's such a scary guy, and still David stood up to him. So that you're only allowed to say how impressive Goliath was to show the impressive kite of David. But so I guess you would say that, in other words, you could say that over here, this guy is such a bum, he's such an iceberg, and he has so much money. You could talk about his money and power to show that the person who stood up to him is even more chashuv. That you could show, but just to stand to talk about the milas of Hasham is, I don't know if it's a Isser. I did not look it up in the Rambam. I didn't even notice if there's a letter in there, but no, there's no letter. But I'm curious. Is there a lav? I'm curious about that. Okay, so this is the second story of when we went against the Shoivach came against us and he lost. Ksiv Shoivach v'ksiv Shoivach Rav Shmuel Chalam Shoivach Shemai v'lam Nikra Shemai Shoivach She'asu K'Shoivach. He was built like a dovecote, which is apparently very large and impressive. V'chad Amar Shoivach Shemai. His name is Shoivach v'lam Nikra Shemai Shoivach. Why was his name Shoivach? She'kol haraya Isai Nishbach l'fan of Kitain. They emptied out. They were poured in front of him like a flask, like a jug. It doesn't mean they actually lost fluids necessarily, but it means that they were literally drained of their courage to fight. Ashpasai kekever pasuach kulam gibarim. What is that person referring to? Now it has nothing to do with any of these things that we were talking about. It's just another machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav Shmuel Amila Rav Ami Rav Asi Chal Amar B'Shah Shezarkin Chetz Eisen Ashpatais Shel Chalalim. They would, with their arrows, they were so strong that they would make just droves of Chalalim as dead bodies. The Shema Taimer maybe you're going to say they weren't so strong, but they were expert marksmen. They were all very strong, so it was their strength that did this, and not necessarily their expert marksmanship. But another way of teaching this is when they went to the bathroom. They left heaps and mounds of waste. Maybe they said they just had a really bad stomachache. No, they ate so much. That their gevura made them eat a lot, or they ate a lot for the gevura. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but they processed so much food that they had to leave these piles of zevel when they went to the bathroom. Amar Rav Mari, Shmamina Hayman the Nafish Zavile So it means that a normal person, if someone's having an excessive bowel movement, he's sick. But who cares? And then the Turk Banafshi, so go to the doctor and figure it out before it gets worse. The Aga Belev Ish Yashchena. What is that? What is this pasuk referring to? Oh, Daiga. I'm sorry. Daiga Belev Ish Yashchena. Again, not relative, but another machlekes between Amir and Rasi. So the machlekes Chad Omar Yisichenu Midati. You should just ignore it or be Masiach Das from it. Ignore is not really the right word. You should just let it go. Would be the more appropriate tied word. Again, just from an emotional standpoint, if you are ignoring something, it's not really being Yisichenu. You're dafka not thinking about it is another type of connection to the thought. To be Masiach Das means to let it go and to accept that it's here and then just to let go. But to say, no, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not thinking about it is not thinking about it. You should talk about it to other people, which seems to be hafuch, but again, they can also work together. Okay, we're going to stop it tonight, and Rez Hashem, we're going to continue tomorrow, and we are still exactly one block behind schedule. Have a beautiful night, and Shkach for coming.
Thank you very much, Mal.